So the direct consequence of the live witness TV and the airing the same day in nightly news was the Civil Rights Act passed in 1964. On the left, you see Lyndon Baines Johnson. LBJ was the vice, who was a factor in the Senate from Texas for decades, referred to as a true power of nature. This guy just got people to do what he wanted. Then, when John Kennedy was assassinated, the vice president was sworn in as the president. On the right, you see Martin Luther King Jr. I want you just to think back in the context of our course here to what happened with the publishing of books started by Gutenberg. You remember a fellow named Martin Luther, who was a priest in the Catholic Church, and he had a major impact on religion and on the world by protesting certain things that the Catholic Church was doing, and gave birth to eventually the Lutheran religion. And here we have his namesake, Martin Luther King Jr., having a huge impact on his country and on the world through his use of peaceful protests, through his eloquent speeches, through his leadership, moving the United States in a direction away from racism. And this was one of the crowning moments for Martin Luther King, the passing of, on July 2nd, 1964, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Now, another thing that had never been seen in the same way was coverage of warfare. So, fortunately, Lyndon Baines Johnson got the country more involved in the war, a war in Vietnam. Our top leadership in the U.S. were worried that the North Vietnamese communists would take over the whole country, and that Communist China was behind the North Vietnamese, and that this would have a domino effect, and countries throughout Southeast Asia would fall to be communists. And this was I think you could say, the height of the Cold War, which was the conflict between the United States and the Soviet Union. Remember the Iron Curtain? A phrase coined by Winston Churchill after World War II, in reference to the Soviet Union having an Iron Curtain around all that geography. Cold War. So I'm not going to get into history of the Vietnamese War, you'll be pleased to hear. But one big point of difference in the press coverage, the news coverage of that war, was that there were news cameras there with the troops and elsewhere recording the grisly, frightening scenes of warfare. And these, once again, were brought to American families during the nightly news. Every one of the networks had a nightly news program, and they still do, lasting, I think, in most cases, for an hour. News of John Kennedy's death was brought live to the networks. Their news anchors, they stopped whatever programming they were running, and they went live to their news casters, and just started with live coverage of what was going on with the Kennedy assassination, and ending up with the funeral, etc. It was nonstop. Other programs were preempted. And so um, here we are, the nightly news, the Vietnam War. And this had a big impact. Americans hadn't seen this kind of warfare right in their homes. This is something TV did. It was very different.